All right? Here's a 700-word segment written in the style of a Matthew Hussey style speech. Conversational, playful, but deeply insightful, expanding key point 1T, the power of words in intimacy. You know what's funny? We spend so much time thinking about what to wear, how to look, how to move, all in the name of attraction. And yet, when you strip it all back, literally and figuratively, the most powerful thing in the room isn't your body, it's your words. Because the truth is, anyone can touch him physically. But the way you speak to him, the way you make him feel in that moment with the things you say, that's yours. That's unique. That's what no one else can replicate. See, men don't fall in love with a body. They enjoy a body, sure, but they don't fall in love with one. They fall in love with the way a woman makes them feel about themselves when they're around her. And the words you choose in those most intimate moments can do something no outfit or technique ever could. They can pierce straight into his identity. They can make him feel like he's not just wanted, but irreplaceable. Now, I know some of you are thinking, okay, but what exactly am I supposed to say? And that's where most people trip up. They think it has to be some over-the-top, scripted 50 Shades monologue. But it's not about that at all. It's about presence. It's about authenticity. It's about saying something that makes him feel not only turned on, but also seen. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're in that moment, and instead of being in your head worrying, do I look okay? Is this going well? You let yourself speak the truth of the moment. Something as simple as, I love being this close to you. That's not complicated, but it lands. Because it's honest. It's vulnerable, and most men are starved for that kind of affirmation. What happens when you say something like that is you bypass the physical and go straight for the emotional. You make him feel desired not just as a body, but as a person. And the moment a man feels that from you, he doesn't forget it. Because every guy has had sex. Not every guy has felt truly wanted. Now, I'll tell you what happens if you don't use your words. Without words, intimacy risks becoming just another performance. It becomes silent, mechanical, even if the moves are technically great. And you've probably felt that too. The difference between when someone is just they with you versus when someone is actually communicating with you, letting you know what's happening inside them. That communication is electric. It's what makes the experience memorable. Think of it like this. Imagine going to a concert where the singer never once interacts with the audience. The music might be good, but it feels detached. Now imagine that same singer locks eyes with you, points, smiles, and sings a line directly at you. Suddenly, the whole experience changes. You feel included, chosen. That's what your words do for him in the bedroom. They make the experience personal. And let's be honest, men are not mind readers. We like to think we're good at reading signals, but half the time we're making it up as we go. When you say something, you eliminate the guesswork. You guide him, you reward him, and you let him know that he's giving you what you want. And when a man feels like he's winning with you, that's when he becomes addicted to you. Because deep down, men want to feel like your hero. Not in some cheesy, outdated way, but in the sense that they're making you happy in a way no one else can. And here's the beautiful part. You don't even need to come up with clever lines. The best things to say are often the most simple, the most genuine. You feel so good. I love the way you're touching me. I've never felt this connected to anyone. Those aren't lines from a script. They're reflections of the truth in the moment. And the more present you are, the easier those words will flow. The power of words in intimacy isn't about performance. It's about permission. It's about giving yourself permission to be expressive, to be vocal, to be emotionally naked, not just physically naked. And when you do that, you create an experience he can't get anywhere else. Not because you said the right thing, but because you said something that made him feel uniquely wanted by you. And that's what keeps his eyes and his heart locked on you. Would you like me to write the next key point? Affirmation builds desire in the same 700-word Matthew Hussey speech style, so the flow continues seamlessly. All right, here's a trace 700-word segment expanding a key point 20. Affirmation builds desire, written in the same flowing Matthew Hussey style speech tone. So, one of the biggest mistakes people make when it comes to intimacy is thinking that desire is only physical. That if you look good enough, if you move in the right way, if you keep things exciting, that's what keeps a man hooked. But I'll tell you the truth. What really keeps his desire burning isn't just what you do with your body, it's what you say with your words. Affirmation is the rocket fuel of intimacy. When you use your words to affirm him, to let him know he's wanted, you don't just turn him on, you lock his focus on you. Now let me be clear. I'm not talking about flattery. I'm not saying you should stroke his ego with empty compliments. Men can smell inauthenticity a mile away, and if it feels forced, it loses all its power. What I'm talking about is genuine affirmation. Taking the things you really do appreciate about him and bringing them into the light, especially in those moments when his guard is down. Think about it from his perspective. Men are under constant pressure to perform, to be strong, to be confident, to be in control. And even when they're doing all those things, they often feel invisible. They're out there trying, but no one's telling them they're enough. So, when the person they're most vulnerable with, the person they're sharing their most intimate space with, actually says, "I love the way you make me feel right now," or "You drive me wild when you touch me like that," it's not just sexy, it's healing. It's a form of validation they can't get anywhere else, and that's where the desire builds. Because here's the secret: desire doesn't just come from attraction, it comes from being seen. A man who feels deeply seen by you, who feels like you're not just there physically, but you're actually noticing and affirming him, that's a man who becomes obsessed with giving you more. He'll want to keep showing up for you. He'll want to keep making you feel good. Why? Because he knows you notice. He knows you appreciate it. He knows you see him in a way no one else does. And you don't have to overthink it. It could be as simple as saying, "You make me feel so safe," or "You're the only one who gets me this way." Statements like that go straight past his body and into his soul. They tell him, "You're not just another man. You're my man. You're the one I choose." And that is powerful. Let me give you an example. Imagine two scenarios. In the first, you're with him, but you stay silent. He might assume you're enjoying yourself, but he's left guessing. In the second, you lean in and you whisper, "I can't get enough of you." Which one do you think he's going to carry with him the next day? Which one do you think is going to replay in his head when he's sitting at his desk, when he's out with his friends, when he's tempted by distractions? It's not the silence. It's the affirmation. That one little sentence has the power to echo in his mind long after the moment has passed. And here's the beautiful irony. When you affirm him, it doesn't just build his desire for you, it builds your own. Because the more you express your appreciation, the more you feel it. You train your own mind to focus on what you love about him, on what excites you about him, instead of getting lost in the little flaws or frustrations that creep into any relationship. Affirmation is a gift that benefits both of you. But it takes courage. It takes courage to open your mouth and actually say the things you're feeling instead of keeping them locked inside. Because let's face it, sometimes we're afraid. Afraid of sounding too needy. Afraid of giving away too much power. Afraid of being rejected, even in the middle of intimacy. But here's what I want you to know. The more you hold back, the more ordinary the experience becomes. And the more you affirm, the more unforgettable it becomes. So the question isn't whether you should say something. The question is whether you're willing to step into that vulnerability and give him a piece of your truth. Because when you do, you create a loop of desire. He feels affirmed. He wants to give you more. You feel more connected. You want to affirm him again, and round it goes until your bond isn't just physical, it's magnetic. And when you've built that kind of magnetic bond, trust me, the idea of looking at another woman doesn't even enter his mind. 2. Do you want me to expand? Key point 3's of vulnerability creates irresistible closeness. Next, in the same style, so it flows like a full speech. Here's the 700-word segment. Expanding Key point 3, vulnerability creates irresistible closeness. Written in that same flowing, Matthew Hussey style delivery. There's something most people misunderstand about intimacy. They think the magic is in the performance, the moves, the rhythm, the tricks. But the truth is, the thing that makes intimacy unforgettable isn't performance at all. It's vulnerability. And I know that word can feel scary. Vulnerability is exposing yourself, opening up, showing parts of you that you usually protect. But that's exactly why it's so powerful. Because when you let someone see the unfiltered, unguarded version of you, you create a kind of closeness they can't find anywhere else. Now, here's the thing about men. Most of them spend their lives trying to be strong. They're conditioned to never show weakness, to never let their guard down. So when a man meets a woman who has the courage to be vulnerable with him, it's intoxicating. It's magnetic. It makes him want to drop his armor too. Vulnerability is contagious. And when you're brave enough to go first, you give him permission to meet you at that same level of openness. Think about how different it feels when someone is just going through the motions versus when they let you in on what they're actually feeling. You could be in the most passionate moment, but if it's silent, if it's closed off, something's missing. But when you let yourself say, I feel so connected to you right now, or this scares me a little because it means so much. Suddenly, the experience goes from physical to emotional. And once it becomes emotional, that's when he can't forget it. Because here's the truth, every man can find sex, but not every man can find depth. And it's the depth that makes him stay. It's the depth that makes him obsessed. When you're vulnerable with him, you're showing him a side of you that's not available to anyone else. That combination, your body, yes, but also your heart, your fears, your truths. That's what makes you unforgettable. I'll give you an example. Imagine you're in that moment and you let out a laugh. Maybe you're a little nervous. Maybe something felt funny. And instead of holding it back, because you're worried about looking silly, you just let it happen. Do you know what that does? It makes the space real. It makes it human. It makes him feel like he's not just in bed with some perfect, untouchable goddess, but with a real woman who trusts him enough to let go. And that trust is what bonds him to you. Or imagine you whisper something that feels scary to admit, like, I love how safe I feel with you, or I haven't let anyone this close before. Do you know what happens in his mind when you say that? He thinks, of, I've been given something precious. I've been allowed into a space no one else gets to see. And once he feels that, it's not just sex anymore, It's intimacy in the truest sense. Now I get it. Being vulnerable feels risky. What if he doesn't respond the way you want? What if he doesn't meet you at that same level? That's the fear, right? But here's the paradox: without risk, there's no reward. Without opening yourself, you never give him the chance to truly step into that role of being your partner, not just your lover. Vulnerability is the bridge between a fleeting connection and a lasting bond. And you don't have to overcomplicate it. Vulnerability doesn't mean spilling your entire life story in one night. It can be as simple as letting him see the look on your face when you're overwhelmed with feeling. Instead of trying to mask it, it can be saying, "I don't usually say this, but," and then letting the words come out. Those little moments of truth are what make him feel like he's in a sacred space with you, one he can't find anywhere else. Men crave this, even if they don't know how to ask for it. They crave a woman who can unlock their own softness by showing hers first. They crave connection that goes beyond physical release, that ties their soul to yours. And the woman who gives that to him doesn't have to worry about competition, because you can't compete with real intimacy. You can compete with bodies. You can compete with looks. You can compete with novelty. But you cannot compete with vulnerability. That's why, when you allow yourself to be vulnerable with him, you don't just capture his attention for the night. You capture his devotion for the long haul. Do you want me to move on and expand Key Point 4 say gratitude fuels devotion into the next 700-word segment in the same style? Here's the S700-word segment expanding F Key Point 4a gratitude fuels devotion, written in that natural, flowing, speech-like style. K2. If you want to know one of the most underrated secrets to keeping a man not just interested, but completely devoted, it's this: gratitude. And not just gratitude in general, but gratitude expressed in the moments that matter most. Because gratitude has this unbelievable power to take something ordinary and turn it into something extraordinary. Think about it. How many times do we go through life doing things for people without ever being acknowledged? At work, at home, even in our relationships, so much of what people do goes unnoticed. And after a while, you start to feel invisible. You start to feel like nothing you do really matters. But the second someone turns around and says, "I appreciate that," or "that meant so much to me," suddenly all that effort feels worthwhile. It's no different in intimacy. Men are no exception. In fact, they may crave it even more than you realize. Because here's the truth: most men walk around secretly wondering if they're enough. If they're good enough in bed. If they're making you feel what they hope you're feeling. If they're truly giving you pleasure. They may never say that out loud, but the insecurity is there, and every time you express gratitude, "I love the way you touch me. I feel amazing when I'm with you. You make me lose myself." You remove that doubt. You make him feel like a success in your eyes. And once a man feels like a success with you, he'll do everything in his power to keep winning with you. Now, don't underestimate how powerful this is. Gratitude doesn't just make him feel good in the moment. It programs him. It trains him to associate intimacy with deep satisfaction, not just for himself, but for you. He starts to think, being with her makes me feel valuable. Being with her makes me feel wanted. Being with her makes me feel like a man. And when he starts to associate those feelings with you, that's when you stop being just another partner and you become the partner. And here's the beautiful thing: you don't need to exaggerate. You don't need to put on a performance. The best gratitude is simple, specific, and real. It's the difference between saying, "That was great," versus, "The way you kissed my neck just then made me melt." Which one do you think he'll remember? Which one will make him want to do it again? Gratitude, when it's specific, acts like a roadmap. It shows him exactly what you love, exactly what turns you on, exactly what makes you feel connected. And when he knows that, he'll naturally lean into those things even more. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. But shouldn't he already know how to please me? Shouldn't he just figure it out? And the answer is no. Not because he doesn't care, but because men aren't mind readers. They're guessing most of the time, and when you give them gratitude for the things they're doing right, you're not just rewarding them. You're teaching them. You're showing them the path to making you even happier. And the more they see that their effort lands, the more effort they'll put in. Gratitude multiplies itself. But here's the part most people miss: gratitude also changes you. When you take the time to acknowledge what you enjoy, what you appreciate, what makes you feel good, you start to feel it more deeply. Because your attention is focused on the positive, your experience of the moment becomes richer. You create a loop. Gratitude fuels his devotion fuels your happiness fuels more gratitude. That's how intimacy becomes a cycle of growth instead of a cycle of doubt. And yes, it takes a little vulnerability. Sometimes it feels uncomfortable to say those things out loud, especially if you're not used to it. But the more you practice, the more natural it becomes, and the impact it has on him. Immediate, because men aren't used to hearing gratitude in that space. They might hear it at work if they get a promotion. They might hear it when they buy someone dinner. But to hear it in that intimate, raw, unguarded space, that's rare, that's powerful, that's unforgettable. So if you want to keep his eyes, his energy, his focus locked on you, don't underestimate the power of a simple thank you. Not just for what he does, but for who he is and how he makes you feel. Because when a man feels truly appreciated, he'll devote himself to you in ways you never imagined. 2. Do you want me to continue with key point 5's personalized language, a lasting impactus, in the same 700-word style so the entire flow builds like a complete speech? Here's the 700-word segment expanding into key point 5D feisty personal language, a lasting impact in that smooth, natural, Matthew Hussey style delivery. 2. One of the most powerful things you can do in intimacy is to make it feel like it could only ever happen between the two of you. And the way you do that is with personalized language. Because let's be honest, anyone can say generic things. Anyone can say, that feels good, or you're amazing. And while those things are nice, they're not what he'll remember in the middle of the night, lying awake, thinking about you. What he remembers are the words that only ever you could have said, the ones that tie the moment directly to who he is, not just what he's doing. See, when you use words that reflect him, his personality, his quirks, the things you love specifically about him, you make the experience impossible to replicate. Because no other woman can say those things. No one else shares those private jokes, those secret details, those unique truths that belong only to the two of you. And that's where real intimacy lives, in the details. Imagine this. You're in that moment, and instead of just saying, "You're so sexy," you whisper, "I love the way you always take your time with me. It makes me feel so cherished." That's not a line you could recycle with someone else. That's uniquely his. That's a message to him that you see him, that you notice the things that make him different, and that you value them. Or maybe it's as simple as calling out something playful. "Only you can make me laugh at a time like this." Or, "This is so us, isn't it?" Those little personalized touches create memories. They make intimacy not just physical, but a story, a narrative, something that belongs to the two of you and no one else. And here's the beauty of personalized language. It doesn't just make him feel special in the moment. It anchors him to you. Because when you highlight the parts of him that you love, you reinforce his identity in the best way. You're telling him, this is who you are to me. This is what makes you irreplaceable. And the more he feels irreplaceable, the less he even thinks about looking anywhere else. Now, let's be real. A lot of people hold back from this. They think, well, he already knows I like him. He already knows I'm attracted to him. But that's like saying, he already knows I love him, so I don't need to say it. Sure, maybe he knows, but hearing it makes it real. Hearing it in your voice, in that intimate moment, locks it in. It's like carving your initials into a tree. It makes the moment permanent. And here's what's fascinating. The more personal your language, the more powerful it is, even if the words are simple. Think about nicknames. A nickname might sound silly to anyone else, but to the two people using it, it's everything. It's intimate. It's special. It's a reminder of a bond that no one else has. The same is true in the bedroom. That phrase you say to him that would make no sense to anyone else. That's gold. That's the thing he'll hold on to. And if you're wondering, what do I even personalize? It can be anything. The way he looks at you, the way he touches you, the way he makes you feel safe or playful or alive. Maybe it's about his strength. Maybe it's about his patience. Maybe it's about his wild side. Whatever it is, when you put it into words, you're building an emotional fingerprint on his heart that nobody else can match. What makes personalized language so powerful is that it's rooted in truth. It's not a performance. It's not borrowed from a movie or a book. It's your lived experience with him. And that's what makes it hit so deeply. Because he knows it's real. He knows it's yours. And he knows no one else could give it to him. So while anyone can give him pleasure, only you can give him meaning. And meaning is what makes him stay. Because long after the physical moment fades, long after the lights go out and the world moves on, he'll remember the words that reminded him of who he is when he's with you. And when you give him that, you don't just make the moment unforgettable, you make yourself unforgettable. T. Do you want me to carry this same energy into S key point 6i's intimacy beyond the bedroom, Palos, with another 700 words so the whole arc of the speech is complete? Here's the 700-word segment expanding F key point 6a intimacy beyond the bedroom, written in that same natural speech like ton 2. It's easy to think that intimacy is just about what happens between the sheets. But if you really want to understand what makes a man stay loyal, what makes him see you as his everything, you have to realize that the bedroom is just one piece of the puzzle. The truth is, the real power lies in how you carry intimacy outside of that space. Because what you build together in private doesn't stay locked behind closed doors. It shows up in the way he feels about you in every part of his life. Think about it this way. The things you say when you're closest to him, the moments where you make him feel desired, appreciated, and truly seen, those don't disappear once the moment ends. They echo. They linger. They walk out of the bedroom with him. They're in his head when he's driving to work. They're with him when he's out with friends. They're there when temptation shows up, because your voice, your energy, your presence is still alive in him. And here's where most people get it wrong. They think the spark lives only in passion, in big gestures, in those moments of heat. But passion on its own is fragile. It burns bright, but it burns out if there's nothing underneath it. What makes passion last is weaving intimacy into the everyday. It's in the little messages you send him when he's not expecting it. It's in the way you look at him across the room like he's still the man who gives you butterflies. It's in those small words of affection and gratitude sprinkled throughout your day that remind him he's not just your partner in the bedroom. He's your partner in life. Because here's what men crave, even if they don't always say it, they want to feel like your lover and your teammate. They want to feel like they don't just excite you physically, but that they matter to you emotionally, mentally, spiritually. When you carry intimacy into your daily life, you create a bond that's more than attraction. It's connection. It's partnership, and that's the kind of bond that keeps a man not just satisfied, but loyal. Think about the difference it makes when you affirm him outside of intimacy. Imagine he's had a long day, and instead of just asking, "How was work?" you say, "I love how hard you work for us. It makes me so proud to be with you." That's intimacy. Or when he's joking around with you, and you lean in and whisper, "This is why I love being with you. You make me feel like I'm home." That's intimacy. Those moments may not look like the fireworks of the bedroom, but they're what build a man's devotion to you day after day. And when he feels that intimacy spilling into every corner of his life, he begins to see you differently. He doesn't see you as someone he just shares a bed with. He sees you as someone who sees him in his entirety. Someone who knows his flaws and his strengths, his quirks and his qualities, and chooses him fully. And that's what makes him stay. That's what makes him think, "Why would I ever look elsewhere?" Because even if someone else could offer him physical attraction, they can't offer him this. They can't offer him the sense of home, the sense of belonging, the sense of being truly chosen every single day. And here's the part that's most beautiful. You don't have to force any of this. You don't have to constantly try to be on or create some perfect performance. All you have to do is take the same energy you bring into intimacy, the affirmations, the gratitude, the vulnerability, and let it spill into your everyday moments. Let it color your conversations, your gestures, your presence with him. When you do that, intimacy stops being a moment, and it becomes a way of being together. And when intimacy becomes a way of being, not just something you do, that's when you build something unshakable. That's when he doesn't just want you in the bedroom. He wants you everywhere. He wants you by his side, in his future, in his heart. And that's how you make sure he never looks at another woman